Hi folks, it's Rock the Boss Man again. You might notice a little change in me today. I got my spectacles on, um, actually reading glasses, because today we're going to talk about leadership discipline and employee evaluations. And it's a really long section, and I've written a lot of notes and everything. I didn't put it all on the board in detail because it would have taken me 3 videos to do it all, to write it all out and erase it and then do the second part and then the third part and everything. So I'm going to be looking back and forth at my notes upon occasion, make sure I don't miss anything. But um, why is this section so long? Well, it's simple, because dealing with good employees is easy. It's dealing with the bad employees or the problems that you have with bad employees that are difficult, and it obviously requires more time. And there's a lot more to be said about it and how to do it properly and everything. Um, in disciplining and employee evaluations kind of go hand in hand, because um, in both circumstances you're evaluating employee performance, and you want to use the same bar and same level of to grade everybody. um, so that's why we're talking about both today. Um, First, we're going to talk about disciplining, and the process is a 3 strike rule. And I'm going to go over these real quick, and then I'll get into each one in detail. The first is a verbal warning, uh, or a first warning, okay? The second warning is a written warning. The third warning is the final warning before termination. Now, um, to talk about the first warning, the verbal warning first, um, is and this is I determine this person by person. If this is an employee that's generally a good employee, you don't have much problems with them. They perform pretty good, but nonetheless they got to be disciplined for something. Uh, oh, excuse me. I need some coffee, I guess. I got yawns. Um, if this is a good employee and you don't foresee future problems with them, then simply do a verbal warning. Or maybe it's that same type of person, but they're going to how do I want to put it? Maybe they're a very sensitive person, and but they're yet they're good. And you don't foresee for future problems. Writing them making it a written warning might be harder than you need to do. Yeah, and you've got to know your people. Yeah, I'm a type person. My ex-wife was a type person that you never had to say much. You never had to say much to us, because we're gonna beat ourselves up better than anyone else can beat us up anyway. So, um, and sometimes you'll have employees like that. Those are your good ones. And if they're gonna beat themselves up, very little you have to say. So that's what I wanted to cover about verbal warnings. But they do need to know, um, and if you put it in writing, make sure you put this in the writing as well. Is they need to know that it's the first or verbal warning, and there's only 3 warnings, and then there's termination. You want them to know the process right from the very beginning. Anytime you discipline anybody, hey, this is number 1 of 3. Number 4, you're gone. Okay, this way they know what the process is, what's going to happen, um, and they've got to know the big picture of it. It's only fair to them. If you don't tell them it's 1 of 3, 2 of 3, 3 of 3, after the third one, they're just going to keep getting written up. They're going to get fired, and they don't know they're going to get fired. So you've got to let them know. The second is a written warning. Uh, oh, excuse me again. Um, and again, this one has to be in writing. Now you're on number 2. You have to write this one out. Okay. Um, so and again, in both in all written stuff, leave them room to. You have to have them sign it. Without the signature means nothing. Okay. Also, leave them room to comment. If you want to discipline them and expect them to see things from your point of view, they should have an opportunity to write their comments and give their point of view or defense or whatever. Um, it's not going to change anything, but it does make things fair. And remember, discipline is not something we want to do. It's not something we like to do. We do it to correct behavior. When people misbehave or conduct themselves poorly, do poor work, or don't show up to work on time, or not in uniform, or their speed just isn't up to par, or whatever it is, um, your goal here is not to beat the employee up. It's not to chastise them. It's not to get them fired from the very beginning. You do it to correct behavior. I mean, it's just that simple. And it's going to happen. It's going to come up. It's just part of management, part of being a leader. Uh, Again, the second warning needs to be in writing. It has to be. There's not an option. There's no two verbals. Okay. Second one has to be in writing. Okay. And again, leave them a place to sign and a place to comment. Okay. In that, when you write that up, you should tell them this is 2 of 3. Okay. You only get one more. Okay. Um, and also consider the fact when you're doing this, is this the same offense as the first one? That makes it more serious. I mean, if employees constantly 30 minutes late, or even 5 minutes late, late is late. I can give within 5 minutes, I give people a break. But if they continually show up 5 minutes late every day, I don't buy that. Okay, then they know they're not going to get in trouble because they're 5 minutes late. Okay, and they're abusing the privilege. So, oh, excuse me again. In that circumstance, I write them up and everything. So, um, the third warning is our final warning, and you got to put this in the write up again. This is your last chance. The next time there is no more warnings, you will be fired. Period. Okay. And anyone who can't fix the issue after 1 time, 2 times, or 3 times, doesn't have a desire to fix it. They don't want to fix it, so they're not going to be good for your organization anyway. So just get rid of them. Okay. Um, but you've got to put in that final warning that if it happens one more time, you're out of here. Okay. And we're not going to tolerate anymore. This is it. Um, but in disciplining in all these situations, a few things you want to consider. Does the employee know? Did they, when they were hired, did they get a proper handbook? Did they read it? Do they know the rules? Um, if it's a problem with quality, or if it's a problem with the quantity of work, their speed or production or whatever, have you trained them? Have you retrained them? Again, correction is what we're looking for here. Correcting the behavior. We don't want to just get rid of people. If you're busy doing that all the time, you're never going to have a successful restaurant because you're always going to have new people. The key to having a good restaurant is retention. Restaurant business is full of turnover. It's the highest turnover business in the world. Okay, so retaining people is key. If you want to go somewhere and advance, keeping your people there and being able getting them to do what you need them and want them to do it in the proper manner is the key. So you can't always be an asshole and fire everybody all the time and write them up all the time. You're never going to keep anybody. You've got to be able to blend um, a firm hand with also a lightheartedness that cares about the people and likes to have fun at work and can laugh and joke and everything. Okay, um, just as the same way you want to be treated. Okay, so um, that's it. Again, the remember the after that it's the final warning. You terminate them. Okay, so um, and this is the biggest issue with this whole thing is um, doing it. And you see, I've got it underlined. That's the hardest part for managers, especially new managers or young managers. Actually doing it. Okay. Um, They know it needs to be done. They know that employee screwed up. They don't want to be the bad guy. Tough luck. That's part of the job. If you, if you can't do it, then you can't be a leader. You can't be a manager. It's just that simple. Because what happens when you don't is your good employees are going to despise you because you let the bad employees get away. Well, if they're walking on you or the business or on that shift or they're walking on the restaurant as a whole, what do you think they're doing to their coworkers? They're walking all over them too. They're taking advantage of them too. And nobody wants to be taken advantage of, especially a hardworking employee. So it's part of your responsibility to protect the good and hardworking employees. Um, in the restaurant, that's what you're hired to do. That's your job. And failure to do so or neglect it or procrastinate it or ignore it is not going to help. It's going to make the matters worse. So you may as well handle it from the beginning because the longer you wait, the worse it's going to get and the harder it's going to be and more drama it's going to be and more apt you are to deal with an attitude problem. That's what you want to avoid is attitude problems. If you can discipline people and they have a good attitude about it and they admit that they made a mistake and they're willing to fix it, that's perfect. That's exactly what you want. You know, but those employees have good attitudes. The ones that get mad and this and that, I didn't do it and deny it, and those are your problem employees. Those people you got to get rid of. You're going to probably end up getting rid of them because they have an attitude problem, and those are the ones you don't want around. Okay, so um, um, you got to remember not to procrastinate it, not put it off, not ignore it. You've got to do it. If doing it, if you can't do it, then you may as well put in your resignation right now. And I'll just put that point blank out there. Period. This is one of the biggest parts of your job. Like I said, if we all had perfect employees or good employees, we'd never have to do this. That the managers are there for to help the bad employees or the ones that are we're having difficulty with. Um, that's directly under your responsibility. So um, you've got to do it, and you've got to well, honestly, grow a set of balls. That's just the way what it boils down to. Um, and you can't just keep doing verbal warnings over and over again either without writing them up and this and that. You've got to follow this procedure, or otherwise you're just hurting yourself. You're hurting the restaurant. You're hurting the business as a whole. You're hurting your other employees, other management team members, etc. Okay. Ugh. So now we're going to move on to employee evaluations. And the first part is be fair. Use examples. It is so important to use examples. If you're going to say Johnny is slow, give examples of what he's gotten behind and had to be bailed out and had to work hard. If you're going to say he's got makes a poor product, be prepared to say, hey, these dishes got sent back to you because you didn't make them right. Or my food cost always runs high when you're the cook on that shift. Or we've had uh, customers complain about your attitude or whatever. Okay, so on and so forth. So be ready to give examples. And examples are very big, and I'll tell you why. Because the way I make an employee evaluation is largely based on intangibles, which I'll get down to in here. Um, Attitude, okay? Attitude is desire, willingness, desire, willingness, and attitude, okay? Um, so those are really hard things to judge and everything, and they're very easy for employees to defend themselves on. So that's why you need to have good examples, okay? Which brings me to number two. Generally speaking, um, restaurant employment is unskilled labor. Okay, and what I mean by that, I'm not trying to insult my coworkers or my staff or anything like this by saying this. Okay, but the things that you do in a restaurant can be taught by me, who is no genius. Okay, um, you don't need to go to school. You don't need a degree in electronics or nursing or whatever. Okay, They're not professional jobs, okay, where you have to have a certain education. Okay, this is not rocket science. I can teach somebody how to cook these dishes. I can teach somebody how to run the cash register. I can teach somebody how to wait on tables. I can teach someone how to deliver the food. Okay, this is not rocket science. You don't need a college degree. You are not a professional per se. Okay, um, so that's what I mean by unskilled. And again, I'm not trying to insult anybody because I respect the guy that's working for me, working his butt off in 80-degree heat every single night because he's in the kitchen slaving over a hot stove. As much as I respect my lawyer or my accountant or a banker or anybody else, okay, they, to me they are all the same. You're working hard. You're working hard. In fact, I respect them more because they are working harder than those other people, and often they have more class and character than the banker or the lawyer. Don't even get me started on insurance salesmen or salesmen in general. So anyway, we'll move on. That's a story for another day. Um, there's 4 areas that I look at. There's basic. Okay, this is being in uniform, being on time, having your name tag on, so on and so forth. These are your basic things. You expect this of a 3-year-old, okay, or a kindergartner. You go to school and you wear new clothes. You've brushed your teeth before you left to go to school. You took a bath. These basic things, okay. This is what you expect of anybody, okay. Then you get quality of work and quantity of work, which are both pretty self-explanatory. Um, but in quality of work, you're looking for, do they make a good product? Do they do the little bit extra? Do they pre-bus their tables? Do they make sure to say thank you to the customer when they're walking out the door, hello when they walk in the door. Um, and the quantity of work is basically, I break into 2 areas, and one is speed, which is very important, and 2 is production. Okay, now I've known a lot of employees that aren't very fast, but they're productive. They don't take many breaks. They don't slack off. They kind of keep grinding. Okay, but at the same extent, that employee, you still need to have some speed, because there's sometimes in a restaurant when you're just slammed, and you've got to be able to have some speed and be able to kick it into 4th or 5th gear, period. And that's all there is to it. Although that employee may get all the work done at the end of the night, there's certain things that have to get done in a very short period of time, and there's a lot of it, and that's speed. And they need to have both. Okay. The last is attitude. Attitude is, again, going back to desire and willingness. How bad do they want it? Really, that's what attitude kind of boils down to. If you want it bad enough, you'll work hard at it. You'll make yourself better by pushing yourself. That's attitude largely. Okay, and if they've got a good attitude, everything fixes it. Everything takes care of itself. Okay. Now I bring in what are parts are attitude. Okay. Well, part of it is teamwork. Okay. Um, do they work with others, or are they working individually? Okay. Um, Customer relations. Do they really treat customers well and nice? Even if you're a cook, there's going to be some time or another you're going to cross their path. Okay. Do you treat them respectfully? Do you treat them as they're a guest in your house? That's how you need to treat customers, as if they're a guest staying at your house or coming to your house for dinner. Okay. Uh, do they see the big picture? Do they realize that there's more than just themselves and their work that all this revolves around? Okay. Do they see that, hey, as a cook, I'm part of, if I'm slow as a cook, I'm going to ruin the waiter or waitress's tip because their food's going to go out slow. The waiter or waitress is going to get blamed for it, whether it's the cook's fault or not. Do they see these things? Okay. Do they see more than just themselves inside the restaurant? Helping others. Somebody who's got a good attitude is willing to help others. Okay, no matter how busy they are. Okay, I mean, there's a time when you're so buried you've got can't help anybody else. You've got to take care of your own stuff. But there's times when you're moderately busy and you can give someone that little helping hand because maybe they're a little busier than you. Do they do that? Is there some caring there? The last thing is cross training. Is a good employee with a good attitude is going to be willing to and sees that learning how to do the station beside them is beneficial to them because they can help that person when they're busy and that person can help them when they're busy, and realize that that's important. Okay. So that's attitude. Um, and then on designing the employee evaluation, okay, we're going to assume that there's not one made, and I like using my own because corporations, they don't like using an attitude based um, evaluation because it's too judgmental. It's easily to be unfair with it because there's just not many things to measure. You have to learn how to measure these things. That's why it's so important to use examples. Okay, how do you? I mean, you're in your mind sitting there saying, "Oh, okay, Johnny, he's got great attitude. He'll do anything I ask whenever I ask him to do, and he's wanting to do more. Comes to me whenever he's slow and asks for more work, and he's learned this station, he's learned that station. Awesome. Okay, but if you don't give those examples and just say, "Oh, you've got great attitude," that's a lawsuit waiting to happen. Okay, and that's why the large corporations like to focus on the more hands-on things instead of the intangibles. But I'm telling you right now, it's the intangibles that make you successful, and that's true in any business, any job, any profession. I don't care. Once you've got the knowledge and the training, it's all how bad you want it, and that's what you're going to try to make your evaluation revolve around. But in order to make that work, you have to use examples. Otherwise, you're setting yourself up for a lawsuit. Okay. So when you're designing this evaluation, you know, for me, sometimes it's a matter of creativity. It's I really have to put myself in a different place. I have to relax and to brainstorm and come up with creative ideas. Uh, you like to stay open minded when you're in this process and put your mind in this mindset. Okay, how am I going to judge how fast somebody is? How am I going to judge how productive they are? How am I going to judge how? And maybe you can go to your reports and say, oh, okay, you made X amount of dishes in an hour. Uh, you can use employee or customer comment cards. You can use um, uh, um, examples, other examples that you've witnessed. But you're trying to get back at one simple point, and and this is the key thing for me is how bad do they want to be good? How bad? How much do they care? How willing are they? How much desire do they have? Okay, those are that's your A+ employees. Okay, and that's what you want, and you want to make everybody like that. But not everybody's going to be that way. It's not going to happen. So, but that's what you're looking for, and you've got to design your evaluation around that. So, um, that's the end of disciplining and employee evaluations. I forgot to tell you earlier. Please check out my website, www.theboss.rocks, helping restaurant owners, managers grow sales, profits, professionally and personally. Thank you, and y'all have a good day.